My son being incarcerated for so long.
There were likely alternative suspects ignored and not pursued. So while Dontae was locked up, the real killer was still walking around.
I feel like I've talked so much for so many years, and I'm about talked out except for free Dontae Sharpe.
Because somebody tried to say, well, Dontae was a drug dealer. Here's the truth. Dontae was never convicted. He was honest enough when they arrested him and said, look, yes, sometime I stole some marijuana. He was trying to be truthful. That's all. And that got wrapped into the story to try to use that to say, here is this drug dealer in Pitt County that convicted. No. This was a young boy, 19 years old. Maybe he made a few mistakes. We all have. But he's not the killer. And the alibis that could have proven he was not even there, they were never interviewed.
To think that a man can do 23 years, sentenced to life, with no physical evidence, with the recanting of the witnesses, with them never interviewing alibi witnesses, and the alternative suspects never pursued, means that they suspended the civil and legal rights of Dontae to incarcerate him because they thought nobody would care. Dontae Sharpe now has spent more years in prison than he has been free. He has not been able to hold his baby, raise his child. What could Dontae have become? And we need to see what he can still become. Because local politics is too intertwined. The local legal system is too intertwined. You can't trust local to investigate themselves. If they had to get a special counsel for Trump and Russia, they need to get special counsel on Dontae Sharpe.
It's time for justice to take a stand. And for us to take a stand as people and do what we know is right.
We're the three lawyers at the Duke Wrongful Convictions Clinic who have been working for way too long to get justice for Dontae. We don't know what Dontae would have become, but we who know him can tell you what he is. He's an extraordinary man.
Yes.
He is a man of great intellect, great courage, great passion, great love, great sympathy for others. He knows what his mother says, that there are other Dontaes. He is absolutely aware that he is not shouldering this burden of injustice alone, that there are men and women in the state of North Carolina and beyond that who are also wrongfully convicted.
This is a special edition of Talking with Janet, and we're talking about the case of Dontae Sharpe. This is Theresa Newman. She's with Duke Law. She's a professor at Duke Law. Thank you so much for being here talking with Janet.
Welcome to the newest dialogue in politics, community news, human interest stories, entertainment, and information from Eastern North Carolina. Janet Conner-Knox is an award-winning journalist with more than 25 years' experience in print, radio, and television. This is Talking with Janet.
You said there was a federal prosecutor that said that he should be let go?
Yeah.
Could you explain that?
The lawyers can explain that more deeply, but in 2009, and the Eastern District Court, just so you'll get a picture of the Eastern District Court, has never had an African American on that court. Here we are, 150-something years past slavery. And the Eastern District Court in North Carolina never had an African American, right? That's the court that when they looked at the evidence, they said this man should be set free. Now it did go to the Fourth Circuit, and the Fourth Circuit, the lawyers will tell you those details and why they did that, because of some things we believe weren't really shown to the Fourth Circuit. The fact of the matter is Dontae's case has never been fully laid out on the table. What has been cover-up and collusion, cover-up and collusion, cover-up and collusion.
Tell me, you've been working 10 years to get him free, and some federal court said that he should be free. Could you explain? And then what happened?
Yes, and we have been working 10 years. However, we started working on the case, and then we figured out that there was something else that a private lawyer who had been handling it could do. So we stepped out of the case, and then that private lawyer took it forward. And then when that was unsuccessful, eventually, then we stepped back in. But earlier in this case, now 7 years ago, a federal court, Eastern District of North Carolina, ruled in Dontae's favor, ruled that the witness's recantation was true and that other evidence to support it was credible, and that Dontae should be released. But the state, and that means the prosecutors in the case, appealed that decision to the Fourth Circuit, which is the Court of Appeals for our area, for our state, it's the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals said, no, that was wrong to grant relief for Dontae, because federal courts have to look back at the state courts and see what the state court's decision was, what that judge's decision was, and that judge found found some of the witnesses not credible that the federal court found credible. So the Fourth Circuit, this is complicated, but the Fourth Circuit said you should have deferred to what the state court did. But what we learned, because we re-investigated everything like, until the cows came home, but not Dontae. I mean, we're bringing Dontae to come home. But when we re-investigated the case, we discovered that the state court's determinations of credibility or lack of credibility were based on a lot of misleading and false evidence.
So here's my question. If you can't go to a federal court and get relief from a federal court without the Court of Appeals saying, well, you should have listened to the state court from the beginning, then what hope is there?
But that is true, that is the law, that the federal court is supposed to, it's respect for states' rights. And that is true that federal courts are supposed to defer to the credibility determinations, the factual determinations made by the state court. But not if those state court findings were based on false evidence. So, in other words, deference is not warranted. So our investigation developed all this information showing that it wasn't warranted to defer. It would be wrong to defer because those findings made by the state court judge was based on evidence and information that he didn't know, the state court judge didn't know, was false, misleading, unreliable evidence. So we now have developed that, and if you go back to federal court may say, oh, now I get it. I was right. My determinations were correct. Unfortunately,
so in the meantime, 7 years he sits in prison.
And we're not, in 7 years he sits in prison, and we're not in federal court again yet, because we went back to state court to show the state court how all that earlier information and evidence was false and misleading. And
is that where you are, Dale?
No, we got on the state court judge's very last day before he retired. He denied the motion, the state court motion for relief, without any kind of a meeting or any kind of a hearing.
What now?
Now we have to figure out what's the next step. It's a little complicated procedurally, but we have options and we're going to pursue those.
Is this an economic, is this about economics? Is this about race? What is this about?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of clients.
All these things,
economics seems to be a part of it, but I have white clients, I have black clients, wrongfully convicted. I don't have any who have a lot of money. So my clients are not people who have a lot of money before and have a lot of money now. But I can't say that, if only they had had more money to hire a better lawyer, because some of our public defenders who are appointed or court-appointed lawyers, they're very good. So some of it is just really bad luck. Some of it is now it's people who are unwilling to look backwards. And, that's the whole criminal justice system is looking, it doesn't look backward.
We look. You've got the case in front of the governor. You've got it in front of Josh Stein. What happens if they say, you know what, this is wrong? Will that weigh heavily? Will that help at all?
Well, they have the authority to actually do something. So they don't have to wait for the state court. They don't have to wait for the local district attorney. They have authority. Some question about the extent of the authority, but they have authority to make to do right.
I know Theresa's got to go, but I got to ask very quickly: what could the average citizen do? Is there anything? Do you call Josh? Josh Stein? Let me be proper about it. Do you call Josh Stein? Do you call the governor's office?
Attorney General Stein. We call him Attorney General Stein.
Attorney General Stein. Do you call him? Who do you call? Or does it matter?
It really. What matters is what you saw here tonight, right? There were people who gathered together, some of whom do not know Dontae Sharpe, and they gathered together to make a public commitment to bringing him home. And there'll be more events like this, and right now the person who has direct responsibility and authority is the district attorney, and that's Kimberly Ruff.
Pray on just a little while longer. Pray on just a little while longer. Pray on just a little while longer. I know justice is coming soon. Come on and pray on. Just a little while longer. Pray on. Just a little while longer. Pray on. Just a little while. I know justice. Let me hear you. I know justice is coming. March on. Come on and march on.
If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Talking with Janet, please contact us by email, brothersideent@gmail.com. Leave your name and contact information. Without that, your guest will not be considered.
This has been a Brotherside Entertainment production.